Tom Cruise flew a P-51 Mustang on camera in Top Gun Maverick, not a stunt double. Him, the aircraft he personally owns. That is number 2 on this list. 5 celebrities. 5 warbirds ranging from a D-Day combat veteran Spitfire to a Mark II interceptor that ended up in a Dutch Air Force technical school with a fake Soviet red star painted on the tail. Stay until number 1, because no one else on this list went further into the deep end of Cold War jet aviation and came out the other side with the receipts to prove it. Let's go. For number 5, we got the only warbird on this list that has been fired upon during its civilian career. Jimmy Buffett, commercial pilot certificate, multi-engine C rating, instrument rating, Grumman Albatross type rating. Purchased his HU-16 Albatross in November 1995, Bureau number 137928, delivered to the US Navy in August 1955. It served the Navy at Okinawa and Kwajalein Atoll in the Marshall Islands. In 1956, it flew as an observation platform during Operation Red Wing, a series of high-yield atmospheric nuclear detonations at Bikini Atoll. The aircraft watched nuclear bombs go off. Then it continued its duties. The HU-16 is built for open ocean operations. 2 Wright R-1820 Cyclone radials producing 1,425 horsepower each, 2,850 total. A deep V hull designed to land safely in swells of up to 4 feet. Range of nearly 3,000 miles. It is a 30,000-pound flying boat, capable of operating from any body of water deep enough to float it. Buffett named it the Hemisphere Dancer. On January 16, 1996, 2 months into his ownership, he was taxiing the aircraft off Negril, Jamaica with Bono, Bono's wife, their children, and Island Records founder Chris Blackwell aboard. Jamaican police, acting on a drug smuggling tip, opened fire. Multiple rounds struck the fuselage. No one was hurt. Buffett wrote Jamaica Mystica about it. The bullet holes were patched. He kept flying. The aircraft retired from flight in 2003 and has been on static display at Margaritaville, Orlando since, with Buffett stipulating it remain in flyable condition as long as it is displayed there. Removed in 2024 for a comprehensive refurbishment, it returned to display in 2025. That is not a passive museum piece. That is a nuclear test observer that got shot at by police and is now a bar. Buffett's Albatross is one of the most storied aircraft on this list. But the man at number 4 did not just own a warbird, he changed the law to make it possible for other people to own them too. For number 4, we got an Academy Award-winning actor who spent 5 years traveling to Washington, D.C. to argue aviation law, and won. Cliff Robertson held commercial, instrument, single-engine, multi-engine, seaplane, glider, and balloon ratings. He began cleaning hangar floors as a teenager in exchange for flight time. By the time he was acquiring Warbirds, he was one of the most comprehensively licensed pilots in Hollywood and one of the most determined advocates in the preservation community. His crown jewel was a Supermarine Spitfire Mk9, serial CBAF Nike 1886, civil registration N521R, marked as Mk923. This is not a restored example built from spare parts. It was constructed in early 1944 at the Vickers Shadow Factory in Castle Bromwich, England, assigned to number 126 Squadron of the Royal Air Force, and flew combat missions in support of the Allied D-Day landings on June 6, 1944. After the war, it served with the Royal Netherlands Air Force and the Belgian Air Force before entering the Belgian Civil Register in the late 1950s. It subsequently appeared in the 1962 epic war film The Longest Day, where it performed as itself, essentially, because it had actually been there. Robertson acquired it and funded a multi-year restoration. The original Rolls-Royce Merlin 66 engine had exhausted its serviceable life, so it was replaced with a Merlin 76 producing 1,760 horsepower. During his ownership, the aircraft was flown extensively by Canadian WWI Spitfire veteran Jerry Billing, who accumulated an unofficial record of 52.5 years of Spitfire flight time in the type. The aircraft eventually went to the Museum of Flight in Seattle. The regulatory battle earns its own paragraph. When Robertson attempted to import Daffeland tiger moths from the United Kingdom, aircraft he had flown in England during a film production, the FAA refused to grant them standard airworthiness certificates. They were restricted to limiting experimental categories that severely reduced their operational use. Rather than accept this, Robertson spent 5 years repeatedly traveling to Washington to argue the case in person. He won. The precedent he established unlocked the American market for imported foreign warbirds, directly enabling the multi-million-dollar import and restoration industry that still operates today. He received the EAA's highest honor, the Freedom of Flight Award, in 1987. He was also the organization's first honorary president and founded a scholarship program funding flight lessons for youth. Robertson did not just own warbirds, he built the legal infrastructure that made it possible for everyone else to own them. His wider collection included a Stamp SV-4 aerobatic biplane, a Beechcraft Baron, multiple Tiger Moths, and a Nord SN-Can Penguin II, a post-war French-built version of the Bf-108, that was destroyed in a hangar fire at Ansonia Airport, Connecticut, in 1969 alongside a Waco and a Stearman. The preservation community still documents that fire as one of its most painful single losses. Robertson built the framework. Number 3 walked in, wrote a large check, and enrolled in the specialist school designed specifically for people in exactly that situation. For number 3, we got a Supermarine Spitfire purchase that the aviation press reported widely, that no one has ever officially confirmed, and that remains one of the most credibly documented mysteries in warbird ownership. In late 2013, during and immediately after the production of the World War II film Fury, in which Pitt commanded an American Sherman tank, reports emerged that he had purchased a Spitfire for approximately £2 million British pounds, equivalent to around $3.3 million at the time. The purchase was widely attributed to deep method actor immersion in the period. For Fury, Pitt slept in trenches and learned to operate vintage armor to understand the physical reality of 1940s warfare. Acquiring the definitive British fighter of that same conflict was reported as the natural extension of that obsession. No registration has ever been publicly confirmed, no variant, no serial number. The Boultby Flight Academy at Goodwood, the only dedicated Spitfire flight school in the world where Pitt was reported to have trained, has declined to confirm or deny. The story has the structure of truth and the documentation of a rumor. What Boultby does is worth understanding regardless of whether Pitt actually trained there. The Academy uses 2-seat Spitfire TR-9 trainers, among the rarest aircraft in existence, to transition modern civilian pilots into the Spitfire type. The program covers Rolls-Royce Merlin engine management, the aircraft's pneumatic braking system, the aerodynamic behavior of the famous elliptical wing, and the narrow-track undercarriage that has caused ground loops and prop strikes for pilots who underestimated it since 1936. The training exists because the Spitfire is not just expensive to buy, it is specifically dangerous to fly without preparation. No other training pathway can safely bridge the gap between a basic private pilot certificate and a solo Spitfire flight. If Pitt owns a Spitfire, he trained for it properly. And if the Boultby program exists partly because enough wealthy individuals now want to own and fly Spitfires that someone built a school for it, the broader point stands regardless of any individual purchase. The Spitfire may or may not be real. The $3 million price point for a flying example is real. The training requirement is real. And at number 1, we have an actor who went considerably further than buying a single propeller-driven warbird. If this list is already covering ground you did not expect, pause right now and drop your pick in the comments. Albatross, Spitfire, or P-51, whichever aircraft you would choose if budget was not a factor. And subscribe, because number 2 is the P-51 that starred in the highest-grossing aviation film ever made, flown on camera by the man who owns it. Stay with me. For number 2, we got a North American P-51K registered N51EW. Built in Dallas in 1944, restored to award-winning condition in 1997, acquired by Tom Cruise's Valhalla Aviation in 2001, and flown by Cruise personally in the closing scene of Top Gun Maverick in 2022. Not a stunt double, not CGI. Cruise in the aircraft, on camera for the film. The K variant is a specific production deviation from the more common D model, built at North American's Dallas assembly plant rather than the Inglewood, California facility. K models were originally fitted with an 11-foot Aero Products hollow blade propeller that suffered from vibration issues at high power settings, leading most examples to be retrofitted with the standard Hamilton Standard unit post-war. Cruise's specific airframe, Army Air Force Serial 4412-840, was constructed as an F-6K, a dedicated photo reconnaissance variant with dual cameras mounted in the aft fuselage for low-altitude intelligence gathering. It has no documented combat record, having remained stateside following delivery in 1944. The restoration history: declared surplus in 1946, donated to a Civil Air Patrol unit in Chicago. Disassembled in the 1960s, acquired by Bill Connor in 1982, passed to Joe Kasparov in California, who began the restoration, eventually completed by Art Teeters at Cal Pacific Airmotive in 1997, to award-winning standard, Best P-51 at EAA Air Venture Oshkosh in 1998. Acquired by Valhalla Aviation in early 2001. Power: Packard-built Merlin FIF 1650 V12. 1,490 horsepower, 437 miles per hour top speed. That is equivalent to roughly 25 modern family saloons combined, producing their total power output through a single 4-blade propeller. The aircraft previously carried nose art reading "Kiss Me Kate," referencing Cruise's former wife Katie Holmes. Following their divorce in 2012, the nose art was removed. The aircraft now flies unmarked, polished aluminium, no markings, nothing to announce itself before it arrives. Cruise holds commercial, multi-engine and instrument ratings alongside specialized letters of authorization for high-performance ex-military jets, including the L-39 Albatross. He has owned the P-51 for over 2 decades. He is not a celebrity who bought a Warbird for the ramp presence. He is a certificated pilot who has been flying this specific aircraft long enough that it has become part of his professional identity. Top Gun: Maverick made that identity visible to a global audience in a way that no amount of conventional publicity could have achieved. The aircraft is currently estimated between $3 and $4 million. That is not the price of the specific airframe. That is the price of a P-51 in this condition, with this restoration quality, with this cultural provenance, in this market. Cruise owns the benchmark. Number 1 owns a progression of aircraft that starts where the P-51 ends, in the realm of Cold War turbojet engineering, and keeps going until it reaches Mach 2. For number 1, we got an actor who holds a commercial pilot certificate, flew alongside the Blue Angels and Thunderbirds, serves on the Air Force Heritage Foundation Advisory Board, and built a personal Cold War jet collection that progressed systematically from a Spanish trainer through a Korean War fighter to a Mach 2 interceptor. Dorn W. FIRF 276 Star Trek episodes began in conventional general aviation. Cessna 172, Cessna 310 twin, Cessna 340A pressurized twin, Socata Trinidad, Beechcraft Baron. He mastered the progression. Then he decided none of it was fast enough and began acquiring retired military jets. The HA-200 Saeta was his entry point. Designed in the 1950s by Willie Messerschmitt for the Spanish Air Force, twin turbojet engines, maximum speed 429 miles per hour. It taught him jet operations, exhaust gas temperature management, the spool-up characteristics of early centrifugal flow turbojets, the complete absence of the digital engine management systems that modern aircraft use to prevent pilots from destroying the power plant. The Lockheed T-33 Shooting Star followed. A 2-seat trainer derived from America's first successful jet fighter, the P-80. 6,557 were built. The T-Bird taught him the specific danger of its Allison J-33 engine, a throttle response so slow that a botched landing approach requiring immediate go-around power could take 5 to 6 seconds to produce usable thrust, long enough in the wrong configuration to kill you. Then the North American F-86 Sabre, Korean War swept-wing fighter acquired from the South African Air Force. A 35-degree wing sweep, enabling efficient high subsonic operations without severe compressibility drag. Hydraulic flight controls. Single seat, his first flight in it was simultaneously his first solo in it. Dorn has described walking out to the aircraft for the first time, strapping in, and wondering if he had made a catastrophic error in judgment. He had not. He flew it for 4 years. The F-104 Starfighter was the ambition that revealed the limits of the possible. In 2010, Dorn acquired an F-104G built under license by Fokker Aircraft Industries in 1964 for the Royal Dutch Air Force, 311 Squadron at Twente Air Base, then Volkel. Retired from active flight in November 1983, subsequently used as an instructional airframe at the Dutch Air Force Technical School, where someone painted it in a mock Soviet livery complete with a red star, earning it the nickname Gorbyjet. The General Electric J-79 engine powering the Starfighter produces approximately 15,600 pounds of afterburning thrust, Mach 2 at altitude, razor-thin trapezoidal wings spanning a mere 21.5 feet on an airframe 66 feet long, the ratio that earned it the nickname the missile with a man in it. Restoring it to FAA airworthiness standards proved economically and logistically prohibitive. The aircraft was moved to Denison, Texas for storage and ultimately sold to the Palm Springs Air Museum in 2014, where it now hosts public open cockpit events. Dorn's observation about the economics of military jet ownership is worth stating clearly. In the civilian corporate jet market, replacement hardware costs multiples of military surplus parts. But that initial advantage is overwhelmed entirely by fuel consumption, metallurgical fatigue, specialized maintenance requirements, and the cost of qualified mechanics for aircraft that were never designed to be operated without an entire air force behind them. His collection was not a failure. It was a sustained, serious engagement with the most demanding aircraft in civilian private ownership, followed by the honest recognition that some ambitions exceed what one individual budget can sustain indefinitely. He did not stop at a Spitfire. He did not stop at a P-51. He kept going until he had the Mach 2 interceptor in a warehouse in Texas and was staring at what it would actually take to make it fly. Beyond his personal fleet, he accumulated roughly 10 hours in F-16s, 8 in F-A-18s, including 4 carrier-arrested landings and 3 catapult launches from an active Navy deck, and left seat time in a B-1 Lancer. Military units extended those opportunities because they recognized him as a peer. That distinction is not a small one. Number 1. 5 Warbirds. 5 completely different relationships with the same fundamental question: what does it actually take to own and operate one of the aircraft that shaped the middle of the 20th century? Buffett turned a Cold War search and rescue platform into a maritime icon and got shot at in the process. Robertson changed American aviation law and established the legal foundation that made everything else on this list possible. Pitt reportedly spent $3.3 million on an aircraft that no one has publicly confirmed he owns. Cruise has been flying the same P-51 for over 2 decades and put it in one of the most watched aviation films ever made. And Dorn built a progression that ended with a Mach 2 interceptor in a Texas warehouse and a realistic assessment of what the next step would have cost. None of them chose an easy aircraft. Which one would you fly? Drop it in the comments. Warbird, flying boat, swept-wing jet, pick one. If this kind of aviation history is what you came for, subscribe. The next video goes inside the collection of someone who makes this entire list look like a warm-up, assembled over 40 years in Central Florida, with aircraft that have histories their previous owners never knew about until after the purchase. Some of those histories are not what the sales documentation suggested.